students, welcome to Tarun IAS. Today we will be discussing the weekly current affairs based MCQs. So let's start with the first MCQ of the day. The first MCQ is the Rotterdam Convention, often seen in news, is related to. Option A says the prohibition of the usage of biological weapons by the member countries promotes shared responsibility among state parties in the international trade of certain hazardous chemicals, prevention of the proliferation of ballistic missiles, or none of the above. So, if we look at the explanation of this question, then the Rotterdam Convention basically is related with the hazardous chemicals. The parties in trade, they have to take prior informed consent in order to trade and prevent the proliferation of the hazardous chemical. All right. So these are the things with which the Rotterdam Convention is related with. So therefore, option B will be our correct answer, and we will eliminate option A, C, and of course D. So you can read the explanation from here. The Rotterdam Convention on prior informed consent procedure, it entered into force in the year 2004. This is basically an international treaty that was designed basically to facilitate the informed decision making by the countries. The important aspect of this treaty is that it is legally binding instrument, and India acceded to the convention in the year 2006. The basic objective is to promote shared responsibility and cooperative efforts among state parties in the international trade of certain hazardous chemicals in order to protect human health and environment from the potential harm. Next question of the day is, who are angel investors? The angel investors, they are high net worth individuals who generally buy back failed firms for asset restructuring. The funds angel investors provide may be a one time investment to help the business propel, or an ongoing injection of money to support and carry the company. Now, if you look at the term angel investors, now basically, if we say then angel is something who sort of comes as a savior, or somebody who brings new things to you. It's something related to that. So if we are able to derive the meaning of the angel investors from the word angel, then we would know that angel investors, they are basically those investors who invest into the new idea or new project. So they are not here for restructuring any assets. The asset restructuring companies are altogether a different concept, or they are different entities, and they have been given the legal sanctity under the SURFACI Act of the year 2002. However, the angel investors, they fund new ideas and new projects. So therefore, the statement 1 is eliminated. Now we are left with statement 2, which talks about that they give one-time investment to help the business propel, or ongoing injection of money to support and carry the company. Now, angel investors, like I said, they fund in new ideas, or they basically help setting up a startup. Right. So this is what the major objective of the angel investors are. Therefore, statement 2 will be correct. Now, which of the following statement is correct has been asked. So option B will be our correct answer. So you can read the explanation from here. See, the angel investors, they are basically high net worth individuals who put their money into small and medium sized business or startups. Angel investors typically obtain ownership in new company in exchange for their support, which is common in the form of the preferred stocks. And individual investors with net tangible assets of Indian rupees 2 crore, excluding the value of his or her primary residence, and individual. Now this is those, like which all individuals qualify to be an angel investors. So these are the eligibility criteria. Having these eligibility criteria makes you eligible for being called as an angel investors. That an individual who has an early stage investment, the one who invests at the initial stages of the company or initial stages of the project or startup. When we speak of the investment in the middle of the business, which is basically to propel the business, these are the venture capital funds. So venture capital funds are different from the angel funds or angel investors, right? Or angel investment. So therefore they invest at the initial stages. They should have experience, 10 years of experience, a body corporate, and with a net worth of at least Indian rupees 10 crore. The alternative investment fund, which is registered under the SEBI Alternative Investment Fund Regulation of the year 2012, or a venture capital fund, which is registered under the SEBI Alternative Investment Fund Regulations. The angel tax is a 30% tax which is levied on the unlisted companies which access the capital raised through the issue of shares over and above their fair market value of such shares. Now, this fair market value assessment is done by the tax inspector. This is done by the tax inspector. It is taxed since it is considered as a corporation income. Startups and the angel investors who finance them, they are the most typically affected by this tax. The angel tax, it was enacted in the year 2012 under the section 56 of the Income Tax Act of 1961 to combat what? The money laundering. Now basically what was happening, the angel funds or angel investments are being brought into the country, and they were being invested into the ideas which no longer proliferated or which no longer grew, in order to make the illegitimately earned money as a legitimate money, right? So bribes and commissions, they might be disguised as an angel investment to avoid taxes, etc., etc. Question number third is the gross domestic product of India includes. Now, basically, first we have to understand the concept, the whole concept of GDP, the gross domestic product. Now, by domestic means something which is within the national boundary, right? So, if this is the map of India, now let me draw a rough map here. So, this is how the map of India looks like, right? Like this is a rough map which I have drawn. Now, anything that happens within this political boundary is domestic, right? So, there is no concept of citizenship or nationality here. The concept is of domesticity, right? Within the national boundary, within the political boundary of the country. So, any monetary value, so all the goods and services, right? So because GDP does not include the intermediary goods. So all the final goods and services which are produced within the political boundary of the country is counted as the gross domestic product. So anything which is being imported is not counted here, right? So even the income which is earned by the Indian nationals in the foreign countries is not included. But however, the final goods and services produced by the foreigners in the India in the country, I mean within the domestic boundaries, will be counted in the domestic product. So the gross capital investments made in India during a financial year, whether this is included or not. So value of the goods and services provided by the NRIs. You see, these are non-resident Indians. That means the service is being imported, right? So service is being imported. Therefore, this will be counted in the visible and invisibles of our um, balance sheet, right? However, this will not become part of the GDP. However, if the same goods and services were provided by foreign nationals in India, then it would have been counted in the GDP, right? So all goods and services within the domestic boundary. So therefore A will be our correct answer, because first statement is correct. The gross capital investments made in India during a financial year, like within India. So A is our correct answer. You can read the definition here, that it is the monetary value. It is the monetary value of all the final goods. Now, there are some key terms in the definition of GDP which you should be keeping in your mind, that it is the monetary value, right? And it is final. Intermediate goods and services are not included in it. Within the country's borders, in a specific time period, generally which is 1 year, and it is a broad measurement of a nation's overall economic activity. Alright, the fourth question of the day is, which of the following factors can lead to inflation? So what is this inflation? Mehengai. In Hindi it is called as mehengai, right? So what is inflation? It is the price rise. It is the price rise, but also there is one more definition. The inflation can be alternatively be defined as purchasing purchasing power of the consumers, or basically the currency. That means how much I can buy with 1 rupee has declined. So this is also inflation. Suppose I have 10 rupees. Okay, let's understand this concept of inflation. Suppose I have 10 rupees. All right. And with 10 rupee I can buy 100 grams of grain. Right. Now the price of this grain has increased. Right. And consequently the purchasing power of rupee 10 will decrease, or purchasing power of rupee 10 has decreased. Thus, the price of 100 grams of grain has increased. Therefore, if earlier I could buy 100 gram of grains in rupee 10, now I can buy only 50 gram of grains with rupee 10. So what has happened? The purchasing power of rupee has decreased and the price of the commodity has increased. So both are the same things. Like this is the economic phenomenon that goes consecutively. If the purchasing power is decreasing, the price is rising, and the price is rising, the purchasing power is decreasing, and this is what is called as inflation. Right. Now let us see inflation in the light of the two things. But here we will discuss only the monetary policy, right? So the inflation targeting is done either through the fiscal policy, which is by the government of India, or the monetary policy, which is by the RBI. So the focus here is the monetary policy, right? Now, in order to combat inflation, what does the RBI does? What does the central bank of any country would do? It would decrease, or it would you can say it will take away the money from the people. So if there is more money, if people have more money, so definitely what will happen? There will be more demand. They want to buy things. If you have money in your pocket, you want to buy things, right? So if people have more money, they want to spend it more. So consumption is increasing, and the more the consumption is increasing, more the inflation is increasing, because this not only depends upon the demand and supply, but it is also depending upon that what the consumer wants. And if consumer does have the preference, these are the market led inflation. So if consumer, they have more preference for a commodity, then the price of the commodity will increase, because the manufacturing units would want to gain monetary returns from out of it, right? So this is how it is happening. More money in the economy, more will be the inflation. So what does the RBI does? It kind of squeezes the money out of the circulation, so that people will have less money and there will be less demand, and thus the demand pull inflation can be decreased. Not the cost pull inflation, but the demand pull inflation here can be decreased by increasing the rate at which the banks give the loan. If the interest rates at which the banks are giving or lending the loan, that means loan will be expensive now, and if the loan is expensive, then automatically people will be spending less. And how the interest at which the bank provides loan can be regulated? By regulating the repo rate, right? So therefore the RBI will increase the repo rate. All right, so that makes, so if RBI is increasing the repo rate, that means it is trying to control the inflation. Lower repo rate will increase the inflation, right? So therefore third is not our correct option. Declining value of rupees, that is also right. For example, if you recently see that the rupee value was declining when we saw it in comparison with the dollar. So $1 was equal to, in fact it had even reached to 80 rupee. 80 rupees, right? So $1 was equal to 80 rupees. So this was the exchange rate. So the declining value of rupee, that means how much I can buy with 1 rupee. So here the purchasing power of the rupee was declining, right? So this is correct. Low interest rate. Low interest rate will never control inflation because banks will tend to give loan, and also people will be spending more loan. I mean, people will be spending more money. So this is how the whole economy is working. High money supply, definitely it leads to inflation. Low interest rate also leads to inflation. It does not control inflation. So what are the optional factors that will lead to inflation is 1, 2 and 4. So therefore B will be our correct answer. So you can read the explanation here, which I have already explained to you. The fifth question of the day is, consider these statements regarding Nankana Sahib. Now we know that Nankana Sahib was in news, and also the Saka Nankana Sahib was also in news. So in that context, we will know what Nankana Sahib is. It marks the resting place of Guru Nanak, the first Guru of Sikhism, the founder of Sikhism. It is located in the Punjab province, India. See, both the statements here are incorrect. Now, why? Because Nankana Sahib is not the resting place. Now, resting place means the place where somebody had died or somebody had spent their last days. Nankana Sahib, whereas in fact is the place where the first Guru of the Sikhism was born. That means where Guru Nanak was born. So we know that Guru Nanak, he was born in Rai Bhoi Talwandi. This is the place. But later on, Maharaja Ranjit Singh had renamed it, and a whole city was established, which is now known as Nankana Sahib city. It is approximately, I mean, quite near to the city of Lahore, and this is located not in Punjab but the Punjab province of Pakistan. So therefore, both the statements here are incorrect. So D will be our correct option, neither 1 nor 2. So explanation is here that Nankana Sahib is city of birthplace of Guru Nanak, who is considered as the founder of Sikhism. The Gurudwara was constructed by Maharaja Ranjit Singh after he had visited Nankana Sahib in 1818 while returning from the Battle of Multan. The city was previously known as Talwandi, and it was founded by Rai Bhoi, who was a wealthy landlord there. Therefore, it is also known as the Rai Bhoi ki Talwandi. The Rai Bhoi's grandson, Rai Bular Bhatti, renamed the town Nankana Sahib in honor of the Guru, and Sahib is an Arabic origin epithet which is a mark of respect. Now let's move on to the question number 6. Which of the statement is correct regarding millets export promotion program? We know that in the year 2021, right, the United Nations General Assembly had declared the year 2023. It accepted the initiative by India, and it had declared the year 2023 as the International Year of Millets. So therefore, Government of India has been trying to not only promote but export millet. Millets, they are high nutritive cereals, and in today's editorial, that is 26th November 2022, we have covered on our English channel the whole editorial on the millets, that what are millets, different type of millet, what is the consumption pattern, etc, etc. So you can go and watch that video. It will be helpful for you to it will help you to cover the whole millet topic. So let's come back to this millet export promotion program. The Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare has designated a comprehensive strategy to promote millet across the globe. The government via program would facilitate the buyer-seller meet and promote millet at 16 international trade expos. Now both the statements here are correct. However, this strategy has not been designed by Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. This statement is partially correct because APEDA, Agriculture Promotion and Export Authority, it has designed this comprehensive strategy. So therefore, only two statement is correct. Only second statement is correct. Thus, only two will be our correct answer. So explanation is answer B. The strategy is prepared by APEDA to promote Indian millets across globe. The government will facilitate the participation of exporters, farmers and traders at buyer-seller meet and 16 international trade expos. So this was the second statement. The Millet Export Promotion Program, it comes at the backdrop of the proposal by India that was supported by 72 countries, which led to the United Nations General Assembly declaring year 2023 as the International Year of Millets. Now let's move on to the next question. Consider the statements regarding gaslighting. So what is this gaslighting? Recently, this gaslighting was not exactly, not directly in the news. However, this phenomena was discussed, if I correctly remember, in Indian Express. Now, what had happened? The rising influence of the social media and the secluded life that youth has started to live on online platforms, OTT, etc. The kind of the shows that streams there, it has impacted. It has sort of impacted the mind or psychology of the brain, and therefore we have witnessed new phenomena that that may have hypothesized or that may have been theorized by psychologists or by psychiatrists way back. So therefore, this gaslighting phenomena was kind of in news. So now, what is this gaslighting phenomena? Basically, without reading the statements, let me first explain it to you, and then we will see which one is the most appropriate statement, and then we will correct it. Then we will choose the appropriate statement. So if you see, it's the gaslighting, basically it is a manipulation technique in which the perpetrator of the crime makes the victim believe in the falsehood statements or in the falsehood of the statements as true, right? So the victim starts to self-doubt, starts to live in self-doubt, starts to disbelieve in everything and only believes something that has been made him or her to believe by the perpetrator. So this is what the gaslighting phenomena is. Basically, it is sort of a manipulation technique which is used, which is employed either in politics and especially in the interpersonal relationships, whereby a person knowingly, unknowingly is trying to influence the victim to by gaining trust, by manipulating the sentiments or emotions, by engaging in the activities which are exactly not true, by pursuing the person to believe in self-doubt or live in self-doubt, etc., etc. So this is what gaslighting is. That means it is a social psychological phenomena. This would not be definitely related with any other thing then. So let's read the statement and then we will choose the appropriate statement. It is a phenomena of using gaslight to give direction to the ships. This is nowhere even related to what I have explained to you. It was a warfare method during the World War One. No, the only method during the World War One that became famous, and it was a horrific method, that was the trench war. Trench war. You can read about trench war in your world history. Gaslighting is a manipulation technique employed in politics and interpersonal relationship. This is our correct answer. But let's read the statement D. It is an industrial methodology to generate urea, which is absurd. This is nowhere related. Only C is the correct statement, and therefore C will be our correct answer. So this is a small explanation which has been written. However, I have already explained to you the gaslighting phenomena. Question number 8 says, consider the following statements regarding methane alert response system, and you have to select the incorrect option. You don't have to select the correct option, right? So it is a data to action platform set up as part of the United Nations Environment Program, that is UNEP, International Methane Emission Observatory Strategy. This is the correct statement, and I'll be explaining to you that why it is correct, okay? It will alert the government companies and operators about large methane resource source to foster rapid mitigation action. So both the statements here are correct. Therefore, none of the statements or none of the option is incorrect. Therefore, neither 1 and 2. Now, the point here is that the methane alert response system, why has it been launched? The first point, that there has been a consistent rise in the methane gas in the atmosphere. Methane gas is a greenhouse gas which is even more potent than the carbon dioxide. It has more global warming potential than the carbon dioxide. Methane is being produced not just by the agriculture field but by the methanogens which is present in the ruminant organisms, that is the organisms with the chewed gut, which is cattle's, buffalo, etc, etc. So these are the animals which are called as chewed gut. They have two stomach. They have a stomach which is known as ruminant, right? So the activities of the methanogens which are present in the gut of these organisms produces methanogens. So when they burp, when they burp after eating, etc, etc, so they release methanogen. The burning of fossil fuels, especially in the rural areas, the burning of the dung cakes, the cow dung cakes or buffalo dung cake or whichever dung that is being used to make that cooking fuel. So that also releases methane. In fact, the paddy fields also releases methane. The methane is also released by some underground plants as well. It is also released by the marshy lands, etc, etc. So methane has been releasing, and with the melting of the ice, the methane is also being released from the permafrost, right? So this is why we need to observe the emission of methane, and we need to mitigate it, and we need to at the same time control the emission. So these objectives would only be fulfilled if we have an alert system, if we have a data to action plan, so that we can analyze, we can assess, and we can take action. So that's why the MERS has been released at the 27th Conference of Parties of UNCC, right? UNCC, that is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. The remarks will integrate data from a large number of existing and future satellites that have the ability to detect the emission events anywhere in the world. It will of course send out the notification to the relevant stakeholders to act on it. It will track the large point emission sources mainly in the fossil fuel industry, but with the time it will be able to detect from coal, waste, livestock, rice fields, etc. Alright, so let's move on to the next question. Which of the following is correct? So two statements are given and you have to choose the correct option. Strait of Bosphorus connects Black Sea with Sea of Marmara. The Strait of Hormuz connects Persian Gulf to Gulf of Oman. So you see, two straits have been mentioned here, the Strait of Hormuz and the Strait of Bosphorus. See, the Strait of Bosphorus and the Strait of Dardanelles, they are known as the Turkish Strait. They are two strait system. So what happens here? We have this is Black Sea. Now, strait is basically a portion where two bodies meet, right? It's a small passage. So this is the strait and this is the land. This is Black Sea. This is Sea of Marmara. So this is Sea of Marmara. Now again, there will be one strait and this is land. And this is here, it is the Mediterranean Sea. So Mediterranean Sea gets connected with the Black Sea with the help of these two straits, which are known as the Turkish Strait. This is known as the Strait of, so this one is the Strait of Bosphorus and this is the Strait of Dardanelles. Alright, so therefore Bosphorus connects Black Sea with Sea of Marmara. So option 1 is correct. Now we come to the Strait of Hormuz. Let me delete this. Now what happens, if you see, this is Arabian Peninsula, something like this, and here we have this Persian Gulf here. This is Iran. Now here we have this Pakistan. If you look at, this is one small province of Oman. This is Persian Gulf. This is Gulf of Oman, right? Now, this Hormuz, the Strait of Hormuz is present here. This is Iran, which the earlier name of Iran was Persia, therefore it is named as Persian Gulf. And this is the Gulf. This is Persian Gulf, this is Saudi Arabia, and these are the countries which are located here, like Kuwait, Qatar, we have UAE, Bahrain, etc. etc. The West Asian countries. This is Gulf and this is Gulf of Oman. So, Strait of Hormuz, narrow passage here, connects the Persian Gulf to Gulf of Oman. Therefore, the second statement is also correct. So, both the statements are correct here. So, you can see in the map. Let's move on. Consider the incorrect statements regarding climate tipping point. Now, what is this climate tipping point? Now, say this is a hill and you are going upwards. You've reached here. Now, if you fall on this side, you can go back to the initial point, that is A, and this is the point B. But if you fall on this side, don't apply over logic here, excess of logic that yes, we can uphill again and we can go down there. But basically, this is that tipping point, and here we have nothing. Let's say nothing is here. If we fall here, then we can't go back. So this is what the tipping point is. That means it's a threshold from where there is no return. And so climate tipping point will be that point where we have accumulated and where the climate change has reached to a threshold from where we cannot reverse it, right? So this is the climate tipping point. It is basically a threshold beyond which the earth system is no longer to recover itself, right? So let's look at the statements then, and we will choose the most appropriate statement. Option A is, it is a threshold beyond which the earth system are no longer able to stabilize. It describes a situation when the carrying capacity of the earth is overloaded. It implies the interspecies competition that drives the destruction of the ecology. It refers to the irreversible consequences of the anthropogenic activities. We have to choose the incorrect statement here, right? It implies the interspecies competition that drives the destruction of the ecology. This is not the climate tipping point. It can be described by some other word, but this is not climate tipping point. So C will be our correct answer. However, rest of the statements, they are somehow or related with climate tipping point. One line explanation is given here. You can read it. I have although explained to you already what climate tipping point is. Consider these statements regarding the carbon border tax. Now, what is this carbon border tax? Now, the European Union, keeping in value with its commitment that it is going to become carbon neutral by 2050, it has come up with a new tax which is known as the carbon border tax. Now, what this carbon border tax will be, that if European Union are going to import commodities in which manufacturing excess of carbon has been emitted, then it is going to levy carbon border tax. So basically you can compare carbon border tax with the import duty. So it is a tax imposed by India? No, the statement here itself is incorrect. This is a tax which is proposed to be imposed by European Union. So therefore first statement is incorrect. The issue has raised concern among the developing countries who predominantly rely on the coal. This is correct statement. So only 2 is the correct statement. And we can read the explanation here that it is part of the European Commission's European Green Deal that endeavors to make the Europe the first climate neutral continent by the year 2050. And it has, yes, so in its commitment, keeping in its commitment, the carbon border adjustment, the carbon border adjustment tax is a duty on imports based on the amount of carbon emission resulting from the production of the product in question. As a price on carbon, it discourages emission as a trade related measure. It affects the production and exports, and definitely the developing countries, they have raised their concerns because this is not in accordance with the common but differential responsibilities. So developing countries, the least developed countries, the low income countries, they have not achieved the level of industrialization as those those developed countries, which are also called as the OECD countries, have achieved. So you have emitted as much carbon as you wanted, and you have achieved the pace of development and industrialization in all these years. However, now the time has come for the developing countries to achieve the same level of industrialization, and now these industrialized countries, they're levying such carbon tax, etc. So definitely the concerns have been raised, and this is not in accordance with the principle climate justice principle, which was the common but differential responsibilities, that is CBDR. Let's move on to the next question. Consider the following statements regarding the ninth schedule of the Indian Constitution. Now, ninth schedule of Indian Constitution is very important because you see that in India we had the zamindari system, we had the permanent settlement system, which had consolidated the land and had given it to the zamindars. However, when India got its independence from the British colonial rule on 15th of August 1947, we had a commitment to social justice, we had the commitment to equality, and thus keeping in commitment with such values, democratic values of our constitution, and which have been largely drawn from the freedom struggle of our country, we couldn't have afforded the extreme consolidation of the land and extreme inequality. So therefore the government decided to redistribute the land. However, land or the property or the private property was a fundamental right then. So therefore, when the government wanted to bring the land reforms in India, it had faced resistance from the land owning community or the big land owners or zamindars, etc., etc. Thus, all the laws which were in accordance with the justice principles enshrined in the constitution, which were meant to bring the land reforms, they were put in the schedule which had excluded those central and state acts from the judicial review. So you see, there is a doctrine which is known as the doctrine of constitutionality. Now what does this doctrine mean? Simply it means that there is a pre-assumption that any act or any law which is made by the parliament is in accordance with the constitutional provisions or constitutional values unless and until it is challenged in the court of law. So that is where the role of the court or the Supreme Court would come into picture, when it will check the constitutionality of that law. If it ultravires the principle of the constitution, it will be declared as unconstitutional, and the law or the act will no more be enforceable. Right, it will be null and void. Alright, so this is what the concept of judicial review is, which comes from the Article 13 of the Constitution. The ninth schedule had excluded these central and state acts from the judicial review. However, we know that in 1973 there was a very famous case, Keshwananda Bharti case, right? So in that case, the Supreme Court 13 judges bench, the constitutional bench, had brought in the doctrine of basic structure, which basically laid down that the basic structure of the constitution cannot be changed by the constitutional amendment. The parliament cannot utilize its supreme power to amend, limited power. The parliament cannot use its limited power to amend the constitution to gain itself an unlimited power. Right. So this was the judgment, and the doctrine of basic structure was evolved, and it is a continually evolving doctrine. There is no fixed principle of basic structure. Time and again, and with the exigencies of the time, the new features of the basic structures are proposed by the Supreme Court. For example, in the Asar Bomai case of 1994, the Supreme Court judgment called secularism as the basic feature of the Indian Constitution, and it cannot be distorted by any government or by any act of the parliament whatsoever. So this is what the story of ninth schedule is, which was passed by the first, which was included in the Constitution of India by the first Constitutional Amendment Act of 1951. Alright, so basically it had excluded the central and state acts out of the purview of the judicial review. It had kept them out of the purview of the judicial review. So it consists of laws, statutes of union and state government that are out of the purview of. Okay, the first statement, I have already described to you what ninth schedule is. So you can choose the correct answer here. It was inserted by the Constitution in the Constitution by first Constitutional Amendment Act. This is also correct. Therefore, C will be our correct answer. So you can read the explanation here. Now, there is one more point here that I would like you to remember, that all those acts which are prior to 13th of April 1973 are out of the purview of judicial review. However, all those acts after the Keshananda Bharti judgment are subjected to the judicial review. Alright, so this is one point that one needs to remember. Question number 13 says, high burden to high impact initiative sometimes seen in news is related to what? High burden, high impact initiative is related with malaria. India has a high burden of malaria cases, right? So therefore, in order to reduce the number of cases in the tropical countries such as India, which see high penetration and high prevalence of the disease, World Health Organization had come up with this strategy for the South Asian nation and the Southeast Asian nations, so as to combat this problem or challenge of malaria. So this initiative is related with the malaria in the high burden countries such as India, Nigeria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, etc. etc. So option A is elimination of novel coronavirus in the worst hit countries. Option B is plantation of native countries in the degraded areas. Option C is initiative of WHO to reduce TB cases. There is another initiative for the TB cases, but high burden, high impact initiative is related with malaria. So option D is our correct answer. Initiative of World Health Organization to reduce malaria cases in high burden countries. So this is the explanation that can be read. It was started in the year 2019 in 4 states, that is West Bengal, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh. It is being implemented in these states. It was launched by WHO in 11 high malaria burden countries including India. The initiative, it has 4 key response elements. The first one is the political will. Political will is it's like highly imperative to achieve any of the objectives, whether it is related with the social welfare, the health, economy, etc. etc. So there is a need for the political will in order to achieve any of the objectives that are being set by the country. The second is the strategic information to derive impacts. As you know, information is key to everything. So therefore, right information and awareness regarding a particular subject is important if we want to deal with that situation. For example, when there was no information and where there was misinformation regarding HIV, people could not have been treated with of HIV. So they lived a secluded life. They probably died, etc. So information is important to deal with any health issue, especially mental health issues, especially the issues which has taboo associated with them, especially issues which are considered as notorious in the society, as was the case of HIV, AIDS, etc. etc. Better guidance, policies and strategies are important. See, the first thing is, in order to achieve any object, the first thing that is the policy, what is the design of the policy, how well informed the policy maker is while designing the policy. This is the first step, a robust policy. However, no matter how robust the policy is, if the implementation is wrong, then the policy goes wrong. So the second step or the second important point here is the implementation of that policy, and implementation is dependent on the machinery which is going to implement it and the information that the machinery has. Alright, so the awareness that machinery has. So these are the legs of the policy making or decision making in the country. A is the coordinated national malaria response. The coordination among the different institutions, different units or different different legs of the government, so as to have an effective response. So these are the 4 pillars on which this initiative is standard or founded, right? Question. So D was the correct answer. We've already discussed what this initiative was all about. Question number 14 is, consider the following statements regarding the Shabd Shala initiative and select the correct answer. See, Shabd Shala initiative has been designed so that the material can, new words can be translated into the vernacular languages. We know that language is a continuously evolving, um, the feature that language has is that it is continuously evolving. It is not a dead language like Latin. So when we speak of English, when we speak of Hindi, or when we speak of other language, they are evolving. New words are being added. So these are known as the Gen Z lingos. Like new words are being made, and therefore they becomes part of the dictionary. However, they do not have the corresponding translation, neither in the regional languages, or I mean the vernacular languages. So therefore the government has initiated, has taken this initiative, so that the new words which are being added to the dictionary should have an appropriate translation in other languages. I mean, of the country itself, of India itself, the vernacular languages. So therefore, basically, it is a platform to provide translation of the new words which are added to the English language. All right. So the correct answer is C. So you can read the explanation here, that the government is not asking for suggestions only in the 22 languages which are listed in the 8th schedule of the constitution. The other vernacular or the regional languages also, if the citizens of the country want to suggest something, the government is happy to include those suggestions as well. Right, so this is what the Shabd Shala initiative was. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching Tarun IAS. I hope you enjoyed this session, and if you want to download the PDF of this session, you can go to the Telegram channel. Link will be given in the description below. Have a nice day.